Hello everyone and welcome to the class. This is David A. Cox with PCClassesOnline.com. This class is being recorded live. We have an audience right now with us. Now, to those of you who are here for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you. You should notice that on your screen you will have a little icon that looks like a hand. If you click that hand, it says to me that you have a question, and I can actually unlock your microphone through whatever device you're on and allow you to simply speak. You also do have a chat option, which is what most people do use. A lot of people are shy. And if you ever have a question during this class, feel free to type it in. Just make some sort of a reference as far as to what I'm talking about, because I don't always look immediately at all the questions. Sometimes I come back at the end. So today we are going to be talking about the brand new operating system for the Mac that is called OS X Mavericks. And we're going to be going over some of the main features. Now, there's over 200 features, but a lot of them are background things that many of you don't really need to know about, but we're going to go over the main ones that I think are going to affect most of you. So if everyone's ready here, we can get going. By the way, if you have questions coming into this class, feel free to start typing them into your little question box right now. When you hit the Enter key, they appear on my screen, and they're private, don't worry. So here we go. The first thing we're going to talk about is a new application that comes pre-installed into the operating system called iBooks. Now, for those of you who have an iPad or an iPhone, you're probably already familiar with this, but now you can read books right from the comfort of your Mac. So, for example, this is one that I occasionally read. I am not a big reader, but this is one I had started to read. You can see I made it all the way to page 23 and stopped. But it is a good book. So let me show you some of the features here within the iBooks application. Now, this all talks to the iBook store where you can purchase books. Very similar to the way a Kindle works, by the way. So when you're in the actual book, the kind of controls melt away, but when you move your cursor, they show up here at the very top. So let's start up here at the top right. You'll see that we have a little lowercase a or small a and a big A. You can probably guess what that does. It gives you access to the controls to change the size of the print on your screen. So the more I click it, the one on the right, the larger the font gets, and the one on the left, the smaller it gets. Depending on your reading conditions, what you prefer, you can click here and change the different backgrounds. So for example, if you're reading at night, you might want to go into night mode. So that way if your partner's next to you in bed, you don't disturb them while you're reading. You can also go to sepia tone, which makes it look a little bit like a book, or white. Now down here, we can actually change the font itself for the entire book. So most people prefer Times New Roman. It's, I believe, it's supposed to be the easiest font to read. But you can go to others here as well, as you can see. The little search light that you see right here is where you can go to type in a phrase or a keyword. If you're trying to find a part in a book, you can just type it in. You can also just type in the page number, and it will go right to that page. Next, we have a little bookmark icon. You can guess what that's for. It is to add a bookmark. This is really handy if you like to read on an iPad or your computer. So you can start reading on one device, bookmark it, and when you open it up on the other device, it'll be right where you left off. Now, also, we have here these two little arrows at the top right. Now, we've gone over these before in past classes, but I feel like we can go over it again. This is full screen mode. So when you click on that, everything else melts away and you will be doing absolutely nothing but whatever you're in. Now, that is in iBooks, it's in iPhoto, it's in iMovie, it's in pretty much every application, for the most part, for the Mac. Not all third-party ones like Firefox, I don't believe, has it yet, but I don't use Firefox, so I wouldn't necessarily know that. Also up here at the top left, we have a couple of different things here. We have this icon at the top right, which is Show Notes. So one of the things you can do is you can take notes while you're in this. This is especially great for lawyers and students. So if I want to remember this one-liner here, okay, I can just highlight it, just like I would if it were text. No right-clicking or anything. You just let go of your cursor, and you can see here you can highlight it in different colors. You can underline it. You can even add a note. That's where this goes right over here. So I can call it cool quote, okay, as an example. Let's get rid of that. All right. Couple other things you can do. This is a little, let's go for these other options first. Up here in the sort of the middle part up here at the top left, you can see the table of contents. Now, this particular book that you're looking at right now, it's a chapter for every day of the year. So there's 365 chapters. But if you were reading a different novel, you'd see the different chapters here. So you could quickly skip to whichever one you want. And finally, this book icon up here at the top left takes you back to your bookshelf, which is where you have all of your books. Okay? Now to buy books, let's close out of this window behind. To actually buy books from here, you click up here where it says the iBook store. And it's essentially the same thing as iTunes. Now when you all got your computer, you created something called an Apple ID. And that is basically an email address and a password that is tied to your credit card. So if you want to purchase a book, you can do it securely through here. And it's a very easy way to do it. And as I said earlier, if you buy it here, you can also access it on your iPad or iPhone, for that matter. Let's see. Any questions so far? Can you import your own books? Well, yes, you can, actually. One of the features that you can do is you can take a PDF and you can drag it right into the iBooks app, and you'll be able to read it that way. Good question. Thank you. So that's another thing that you can do. Oh, one other little trick I want to show you. I showed you this in the video that we made when Mavericks first came out, but there's actually a little trick that you can use to make your computer read to you. Kind of a cute little way that you can do it. The way you do it is you have to actually leave the iBooks app briefly and go into the Apple icon up here at the top left and go to System Preferences. Now, by the way, if ever during this class you get lost, this class is being recorded, so we'll have it online later on today. And from here, you're going to go into Dictation and Speech. Now, by default, it's going to take you to the Dictation tab, but for this purpose, we're going to actually switch over to Text to Speech. Now, your computer comes preloaded with 6 different voices, and when you hit the little play button here, it'll let you hear what they all sound like. Now, if you want to use this feature, I would recommend going into Customize, and you can download a couple other voices. The one that most people seem to like the best is, one second here, which one is that? I believe it is Ava. Oh, right up here, it says Ava. Ava is actually the same voice as Suri. So for those of you who are familiar with that voice, it'll download it to your computer. Just be aware, these file sizes are pretty big, so if you want to use this feature, make sure you have plenty of room on your hard drive. So once you've selected your system default voice, what you can do is go in here, go back into the iBooks app, click on Edit, go down to Speech, oops, I gotta be highlighted it, sorry, and hit Start Speaking. And it will just start talking to you. It's kind of a cool way to turn it into an audiobook if you want. No other questions I can see regarding that. That is iBooks, everyone. Let's move on to the next feature that we're going to be talking about, which is another application that comes with the computer called Maps. Very similarly to the way that your iPhone works, you now have a built-in Maps program built into the guts of your Mac. Now, this Maps program is pretty cool. I personally do wish that they gave you the option of using Google as the source instead of the Apple Maps. As many of us are aware, there have been some issues with the Apple Maps program. So let me show you some of the different features here. This icon that you see up here at the very top left, this arrow, is the universal symbol for GPS. So when I click it, it's going to show you where I'm sitting right now, which is in Provincetown, Massachusetts, a couple 100 miles away. The next over here, which I'm going to show you by going to Boston, actually. And let's zoom in. This will be the easiest way to show you this stuff. Okay. So this button right here that you see at the top left, indented by 1, is the 3D mode. So what it does is it kind of shifts it so you're now looking at everything on an angle. And should you be on a trackpad on your computer, if you have a laptop, you can actually use your fingers and you can navigate by twisting them on your trackpad. You can kind of navigate around here. And it's just kind of an interesting way to explore, especially if you're going to be going to maybe a city that you've never been to before. It's a nice way to get your bearings straight. The next icon, let's see if I can find a way to accurately show this one to you. hopefully we can find one. This little car icon is traffic alerts. So basically when that is active, right now it's the middle of the day on a Saturday. I don't see any alerts right now, but it would show you different color-coded lines running around the streets, which would represent that there's a delay of some sort, maybe an accident or construction. Next, we have directions here, which is kind of an interesting feature. So what you can do is tell the computer to start at your home location and where would you like it to end up. So if I put just generally Boston, Massachusetts, I hit Get Directions, and it will give me my plan right there. And as you can see here, there's I could take a couple different routes here. Of course, one's a lot faster than the other in this case. And if you have this linked up to an iPhone, if you have an iPhone, this right now that you're looking at is a dummy account, so I don't actually have all of my info in here. But what you can do is you can actually send these directions to your iPhone so that you just sit at your computer, plug in where you're going, and then GPS pops up on your phone and you go. Pretty cool feature. To do that, what you do is you'd click on the final destination. You'll see a little lowercase I pop up here, and you'd hit, I believe it's the share button right here, and you should see on the right-hand side it would say send to iPhone or iOS device. I forget what the phrasing is exactly. And that's that feature. Oh, here's another one. Okay. Can I show that right now? Let's see. I don't think I can show you that feature right now. That's okay. We can move on. Next, we're going to go into the calendar program. So let's go into calendars here. Once again, this is a fake calendar that I have here, as you can see by the fact that there is absolutely nothing on it. Oops, we got a little delay there. I wonder what's going on. Okay, great. So the calendar application looks very similar to the last calendar app that they had out there. Just a couple minor little differences. So when you go to the next month anymore, it used to be that you would flick with your fingers from left to right or right to left, depending on which direction in time you're going. Now you just swipe up. So if I swipe with 2 fingers up, you can see I can go to December, January, and it'll just kind of snap to the right month. Okay? Easy way to do it. Let's say, oh, this is actually probably the feature I wanted to show you in Maps. I can show you right here. Let's say on December 31st, I'm going to take a trip to, let's just use Boston as the example. So I can double click to put in a new event, and so I'll say trip to Boston. And you'll see here that at the right below it says add location. So let's put in my old home, 1 Park Lane, Boston. And you'll see that as I stopped doing that, let's see, it's trying to do Boston, MA. Let's do a different location. Let's try Boston Opera House. Okay. So I put in a theater, okay. Again, I wish that you could tell this to use Google Maps instead of the Apple Maps program. I just have never been that happy with it. And what you'll see it'll do is it'll give you a little preview of where you're going to end up, but it figured out the address. So when I go to Boston, I'll have on my iPhone this information, and I can just hit Give Me Directions. And there you go. And it will give you the approximate, of course this is pretty far in advance, the temperature. I believe that's actually what it is right now. I don't think that's trying to predict what it's going to be. That is what the temperature is at this moment. Okay, that's a new little feature. If you ever need to print your calendar, not a lot of people do this anymore, but if you do, Command P, you'll see that it actually does print very cleanly. So if you want to put it up on your desk, you can do that. Just thought I'd point that out. Very minor detail. The next feature that's part of Mavericks isn't going to affect many of you, but I think that it's worth mentioning is that if you like using full screen applications, and if you have 2 monitors, you can now run separate apps on both monitors. So for example, I can have my email in full screen on my laptop right here, and on my second monitor, I actually have two, I can have a totally different app running in full screen. Someone was asking about, do you need Wi-Fi for this to work, for the Maps program? You don't need it to work. In order to send it to your phone, yes, you would need Wi-Fi. If you wanted to synchronize, yes, you would need Wi-Fi. But just to actually use it, no, not at all. Next, moving on, let's see here. Oh, tabs is a new feature. So in the past, where'd my cursor go? Here we go. Let's say I think I have a dummy document here. Okay, pretend I didn't have easy access to all the folders that I use over here on the left-hand side, just for this demonstration. Let's say I have this item right here, dummy letter, and I want to move it into my downloads folder. Now, what people would do in the past is they would open this window, and then they would go to File, and they'd go to New Finder window, and then they'd move it over, they'd go to that location, and they would drag it and drop it in. Well, now it's a lot easier. You don't need to go that far to do it. Now, just like your web browser, your Finder browser has the ability to use different tabs. So to do this, it's the exact same command. On your keyboard, you'd hit Command and the letter T. And so what you'll see is now I have a tab over here for Documents, and currently this one here is on the desktop, but what I can do is just navigate to Downloads. So if I want to move that document, now all I have to do is take dummy letter and drag it into Downloads, and it's there. It's a really easy way to do that. And yes, that's Command T as in Tom to do that. The next feature we're going to talk about is called tags with a G. The tags is going to be something that is going to be really helpful for people who do a lot of business work on their computer. If you have a lot of files, it's going to be handy for organizing them. And I'm going to just give you the example that I've used in the past. Let me go into, where did I put Pages here? Let's go into Pages here, and let's just create a dummy receipt. Okay. So we'll go into the dummy, where did I put it? I'm probably scrolling right by it. Well, oh, here we go, invoice. Okay, so let's pretend that this is an actual invoice, and I want to tag it so that later on down the road, I can just type in receipts, and it'll pop up. Pretend it's a receipt, not an invoice. Okay, when you save your document, File, Save, you'll see here that you have a new feature. Not only do you put in the name, but you can also put tags. So let's just say business. Now under tags, I can either use tags that I've already created, or I can create custom tags just by typing them in. In my case, I've already created one called receipt, and when I hit save, it just kind of puts a little notation on the document that that's what it is. And when I'm in my Finder window here, you'll see here at the very bottom left, I have those various tags. So now I can click on receipt, and boom, there it is. Now it's not showing me where the actual folder is, but it's just an easy way to get everything that has that tag that's associated with it. A couple of examples of things that you could use as tags, of course, receipts, invoices. You could use it for legal documents, audio files, video files, whatever you want. You can really customize it the way you want it. Let's see. Oh, someone asked a question, how do you get the colors? Okay, the way you get the colors right here, you can see I didn't use it here for letter, is you secondary click. So for those of you on a laptop, you're going to click with 2 fingers on your trackpad. If you're on a desktop, you can always hold the Control key and click, and you'll see right here is where you can select the color. So I can make letter blue and receipts red, and I can make Mac related yellow, and go on and on. You can also give them multiple tags. So if something fits into 2 categories, you can put in both. You just, as you type in one tag, just start typing the other and it'll pick it up. The next feature is probably my absolute favorite feature in Mavericks, and I think it's going to become a lot of yours as well. What you're going to do is go into System Preferences, And we're going to go back to where we were a little earlier, which is called dictation and speech. And we're going to go back to the dictation tab. Now, this is going to look slightly different than the last version. So we have, of course, dictation on, but we have this new feature here called enhanced dictation. Now, to trigger this, you can choose what key to use. Personally, I like to tell it to use either command key, and I tap it twice to enable it and once to stop it. So to show you how this works, I'm going to open again a Pages document. If I can remember where I put it, there we go. New, and let's go blank document. So this applies to the entire computer. This is email, notes, Facebook, Pages, Word, you name it. Any program on your computer, you can use this feature. So what you're going to start off with is double tapping whatever key that you just told the computer to use. In my case, the command key. Now, when you do that, you're going to see a microphone icon show up on your screen, and it's going to beep at you. And watch what happens when I start talking. Hello, everyone. This is how you dictate on the Mac using OSX Mavericks. Period. New paragraph. As you can see, I can not only speak my words, but I can also speak punctuation. Period. Unlike the previous operating system, there is no longer any limit on how long you can use this feature. Before, you could only use this in 30-second increments. Now you can go on and on and on. Period. So that just shows you a little bit about the dictation feature. And what's great is that with that enhanced dictation feature, you can actually be offline and use that. You don't have to be connected to the internet. The key thing, though, is that if you do turn enhanced dictation on, just be prepared that your computer is going to download, I believe it is a 750 megabyte file. However, when you consider the fact that you used to need Dragon dictation to do that, which was a many gigabyte file, that's a pretty cool feature. And I think this is great for not just students, but authors, doctors, lawyers, any business professional who has to write documents. This is just a massive time saver. You do want to make sure that you really pronounce when you talk, which I tend to do anyways, or at least I try to. Let's see here. Someone just asked a question, if you're in downloads, how do you create a tag for iTunes? You probably wouldn't, because if a song is in iTunes, you no longer need it in your downloads folder. As soon as you download something into iTunes, it creates its own version. So that question's kind of irrelevant. So pretty cool feature. That is the enhanced dictation feature built into Mavericks. And it's free. I don't know. I find that pretty cool. Next, for those of you out there who do use the social network called LinkedIn, which is a business-related social network that spams the hell out of your email inbox. Ooh, did I say that out loud? You can now integrate it right into the guts of your computer so that you can be bugged nonstop 24/7. And if you decide to do that, just simply go into System Preferences, Internet Accounts, and you will see that LinkedIn is now there for your annoying pleasure. There you go. Next, a new feature in the App Store, which is actually not in the App Store. It's in System Preferences. When you're in System Preferences, you will see that there is now an icon right next to dictation for the App Store. And what I want you to look at is especially this, which one is it here? These two features right here. So what your computer can do is you no longer need to tell it to do updates. It can do it automatically as they come out. The one little thing that you should know is that it will not install the update if the program is running. It has to be closed out for it to run. So for example, if you leave music playing 24/7, it's not going to install the updates to iTunes until you quit. That's a new feature. The same thing is now available, by the way, on the iPhone and the iPad in iOS 7. Next, let's see here. We already talked about that. Should you have let's say you have a video on your computer. I don't think I have one in here, unfortunately. Yeah, you'll just have to imagine for this one. Let's say I had a video on my screen right now in my Documents folder. One of the new features is you can share it directly to Facebook. You'll now see that you have the share icon at the top right of your screen. And when you click on that, if you have Facebook integrated with your Mac, you'll have the ability to post that video directly to Facebook. Next. Oh, and the same thing, by the way, applies to Twitter. If you're running a lot of apps, one of the key things that Apple tends to focus on is giving you the best performance possible. It has a lot to do with the fact that for those of you who have used PCs, a lot of you have probably found that your PC slows down after usually only about 6 to 8 weeks after you purchased it. Apple really does try very hard, and a lot of it is things that you and I don't see running in the background. They try to do these things to keep it so that it stays fast. Part of which is just the fact that it's a Mac. But one of the new features is, let's say you have an app that's running in the background that you've forgotten about, that's using a lot of power. You can actually click on the battery now, and it will show you what apps are using a significant amount of energy, or processing power in this case. So for me, it's the software that we use to do this class, and the software that I use to record this class. No shocker there. Just a nice way to keep you aware of the different apps that are using a lot of energy. Let's see. The requirements that you need to get OSX Mavericks. You have to be running a computer that has Snow Leopard or later. Now, if you don't know what I just said, here's the way to find out. Go to the Apple icon in your computer and go to About This Mac. You see here where it says version 10 point and it has a number. As long as it's version 10.6.8 or later, you're fine. It's a free upgrade, by the way. And I guess we might as well mention that. The way you get Mavericks is you go to the Apple icon, App Store, and it's right at the top. OSX Mavericks. You just click on it. You have to have an Apple ID in order to download it, but the whole process takes about an hour, including the actual download itself. Let's talk briefly about apps that are known to have certain issues with this. And I have a new one now that I have to add to it. Flip for Mac is probably the biggest one. For those of you who have WMV files, and for those of you who have no idea what I just said, don't worry. WMV is a type of video file. Windows Media Video is what it stands for. If you have Flip for Mac, I'll make an easy recommendation. It won't run on Mavericks, but there's a better solution out there. Instead, just go to Google, okay, and I want you to search for 3 letters, VLC. It is a free video player, and you can just download it. It takes 2 seconds to download, and it will play every video file out there that you can imagine. Flip for Mac used to be great. It is no longer great. Now these guys have really taken over as the leaders. Very easy to use software. Other software that some people have reported issues are the Adobe Creative Cloud suite, which is actually not a problem. It will give you errors when you start it up. All you have to do is quit out of it and relaunch it, and it will work fine. Some people have reported issues with Audio Foil. Others have reported issues with Audio Hijack Pro, which I don't think is accurate anymore because I just used it myself yesterday, and I didn't have a problem with it. And finally, USB-powered monitors made by the company DisplayLink are reported to have some issues. Oh, and the big one. For those of you who are familiar with my small business that I run called the Mac Guru, we offer remote support using a piece of software called TeamViewer, which I just found out has massive issues with Mavericks if the client is running a computer, including one person who is in this class right now, who knows that firsthand. There's one other feature that we're going to go over here. I see a couple. Let's see here. No, I think I've answered those questions. There is one other feature that is worth mentioning, but I'm going to just tell you all right now that I personally don't recommend this feature. Okay. In System Preferences and in iCloud, you now have access for iCloud to store your keychain. And for those of you who have no idea what I just said, the keychain is the part of your computer that stores your passwords. So, for example, all the different websites that you go to, it stores those passwords so that you don't have to type them in every time. The reason why I am not recommending it is because for those of you who have taken our classes before, may have heard me say before that I am not a fan of Safari as a web browser. Instead, I very strongly recommend that you switch your data to Google Chrome. Google Chrome is by far the fastest web browser out there, And what's great is that it has built into the guts of it, it will store all of your passwords. Okay, so if you use Google Chrome on your computer, if you use it on your phone, if you use it on your iPad or your Droid, all of those bookmarks, all of those passwords are going to auto sync. It's a really nice feature. So that's the last feature that I really wanted to mention, but I'm not really recommending, just because Safari has not proven to be very good. So at this point, what I'm going to do is, for those of you who have been watching this video online, the video is going to come to an end, and I hope you'll check out some of our other videos. For anyone who checked this out on YouTube, please visit our website at pcclassesonline.com. We are a free service, no hidden fees of any kind. And for those of you who are here live, I will stick around an extra few minutes, and if any of you have questions about either what we've covered today or anything else, I'd be happy to answer your questions. So thank you, everyone. Let's get to those questions, your questions, for those of you who are here right now.